Hey everyone, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to install a solid wood mantle on a brick fireplace. I'm going to walk you through step by step exactly how to do it, and I'll also give you some tips on how to make sure you get this lined up perfectly when you're getting it mounted up. Let's jump right into it. I started off by measuring the width of my fireplace and then marking the barn beam that I had to size. And I always like to share some scripture in my videos, so I hope that you all enjoy this verse from the book of Romans. And I recommend marking this on all four sides if you can, because it'll make it a lot easier when it actually comes to cutting. So you can see here I took it over to the miter saw, and then I just had to go with a couple passes, flipping it over in between cuts to make sure that I could cut all the way through this large piece. Although I used a miter saw to cut my beam, you could definitely use a chainsaw, which may actually even work better, or you may be able to use a circular saw with multiple passes depending on the thickness of your beam. After I cut all the way through, there was still some rough edges that I wanted to cut off, so I just used my miter saw to trim off those additional chunks to try to make it a little bit easier to sand. The end of mine still looked a little bit sloppy after I finished with the miter saw, so I went ahead and grabbed my random orbital sander and just used that to knock down those rough edges and make the end look smooth and consistent with the other side. After I finished sanding, we went ahead and took it inside and made sure that everything lined up nicely, and it did. So next it was time to start drilling some holes. Here you can see I'm using a 3/4 inch masonry bit, and then I'm also using my hammer drill. This is a Ryobi hammer drill, which has been super reliable for me. And just to make drilling the holes a little bit easier, I actually used a 2x4 as a template. I marked the center line all the way down the 2x4 and then used the spade bit to drill my holes. So this is going to help ensure that I can line up the holes on the beam perfectly with what I drill on the wall. After drilling the holes, I took this 2x4 piece inside, we got it nice and level on the wall, and then secured this to the fireplace, and this is going to serve as the template that I use to drill the holes into the brick. And big shout out to my wife's parents. I'm super blessed to have amazing in-laws, and they were a huge help in this project, so thank you both for your assistance. Next, it was time to start drilling away and drilling the holes into the brick. So you can see I marked where I needed to drill to with a little blue flag on here, and I drilled the holes deeper on the ends than I did in the middle to make sure that I wasn't going to actually drill into the firebox. But we made a huge mistake by using a little shop vac inside, and it blew this brick dust everywhere. So I definitely recommend don't make the same mistake as us and just use a little box or something like that to catch the debris. After you finish drilling your holes, you're going to want to remove that 2x4 from the fireplace and then take it out to your beam and drill it into the back center of your beam. This is going to ensure that the holes that you drill in the beam and in the fireplace are perfectly lined up, and it'll save you a lot of time later. And I used 3/4 inch threaded rod to connect my beam to the fireplace, and so here I'm just measuring it out, and then I use my angle grinder to cut these different pieces to length. Next, I went back to my beam, and I have a spade bit here on the drill, a 3/4 inch spade bit, and I went ahead and drilled those holes into the beam. And this is where the threaded rod is going to go on the beam, and then it'll go into the holes that we drilled in the brick on the fireplace. You can see here I tried to use a square while I was drilling the holes. It was a little bit challenging to keep it lined up well, but you do want these holes to be as perfectly straight as possible, rather than coming in at an angle, which could present some challenges later on. After finishing drilling all the holes, we went ahead and went back inside and got everything lined up with the threaded rod. So here we're checking to make sure that all the holes line up, that the rod lined up, and that everything is looking nice and level. Thankfully, everything was still looking good and everything was nice and level, so it was time for us to take the beam back off one last time and then use liquid nails inside of each of these holes, which is going to secure the threaded rod in place. So here I am putting some liquid nails in those holes as well as on the threaded rod and then pushing that into the hole. And I did this for each of the holes on the fireplace side as well as putting some of that liquid nails in the mantle itself. And this stuff is super strong, super durable, and I will say that after having this up for a little while, it is still holding up really, really well. So next it was time to just slide it into place. It was already starting to cure, so we had to push it on there pretty hard, but everything ended up lining up perfectly and it worked out really well for us. There is a little bit of a cure time for the liquid nails, so I just grabbed some scrap 2x4s and cut those to length and use those as a support until we could take it off and rely on the strength of the adhesive. And we were absolutely blown away by the final result of this. It turned out really, really nice, so much better than we even could have imagined. The barn beam looks great and it's held up really well after a couple months as well. So definitely I would recommend giving a project like this a shot if you have an opportunity, and I think it'll really help you level up your space. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and if you did, please make sure to hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel.